Thank you. Now Pete is going to share for us.
Hi, my name's Pete and I'm an addict. Yeah, no, it's great to be up here tonight. Obviously very nervous. I don't like sharing. It's not my forte. It's an honour to be up here. You know, it's a privilege to be able to give back to the home group that has given so much to me. And I suppose I just start my story with how I grew up. When I was a child, I always had everything I ever wanted. Come from a well-off family. I went to the best schools that you could go to in London. And I was really disruptive as a child. I was always the naughty one, always sitting outside the headmaster's office, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know when this problem started, but there was always something a little bit wrong with me. Still is. But, you know, I found my first drink when I was 8, and my dad gave it to me whilst we were out on holiday. I had a glass of champagne, and I remember right after having fancy. But aside from what it was and where it was and all of that, I do remember very vividly right after I wanted another, and that is something that stuck with me throughout all of my using quite clearly, as most of the people in this room will know. And immediately it calmed me, you know, it gave me some ease and comfort, and I no longer felt anxious. You know, my sister said, "Oh, you're so funny when you've had a drink," and I thought I was really cool. But you know, I quickly learned that was a good way of sort of getting out of myself. And you know, at the age of 9 or 10, I'd go over to Jersey to visit my my nephews and nieces, and one of them started to let me smoke spice with them, the synthetic weed. And you know, I'll always remember going back, and I'll always remember smoking, and I absolutely loved it. And that was the highlight of going to Jersey for me. I'd always say, when are we going back to Jersey next? When are we going to go back next? And it wasn't because I wanted to see my dad, because my parents had gotten split up. It was because I knew that was there. You know, as with most people, my story is that I took some drugs. I couldn't stop using them. I ended up broken, I ended up battered, and I ended up in recovery. So I went to my next school, and I did all right. You know, I was always quite academic. I would always get good grades. And I went to my next school, and again, I got introduced to alcohol properly this time. And I remember the first time that I ever got drunk, really, well, the second actually. I chugged a bottle of vodka in the space of 15 minutes, not knowing that it could kill you, and I ended up in the ICU for the next 2 weeks. The doctor said that it was a miracle that I survived, and the only reason that I probably did was because I was so young and healthy. And you know, that's my story. Like, there are no half measures for me. I go absolutely balls to the walls, so to speak. I can sort of laugh at it now, but oh my God, was it tragic at the time. Hospitals were sort of my thing as well. You know, I'd sort of drink too much, end up in hospital, wake up, handcuffed to a bed or something, get out of the hospital, do it again the next night. For me, the consequences of my using came really hard, really fast, really quickly. You know, there was no sort of slow burn for me. I didn't have that luxury, I guess. Got introduced to pain pills by the school doctor, and I just started using pain pills every day. You know, my dad died when I was 15. I used that as a great excuse to sort of go and get high, and I'd learnt about codeine from a rap song that I'd heard, so I thought, you know, well, I'll go and get some codeine from the doctor. And I'd found it, you know, that was me done. After I'd found that, I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I did absolutely everything in my power to get those tablets, and I got them for the most part, and in between I'd drink, and then when I ran out of them I'd drink, and then I got expelled from school because I got really drunk, and I started fights with the teachers, and I started hitting the nurses again, woke up in a hospital bed, handcuffed to the bed, so it'd sort of just be anything I could get my hands on, and then I got really into the pills, and I was doing a share in front of a bunch of kids once, and the person that told me was just to educate some schools, I suppose, about drug addiction, and the person said, "You sound bored when you're telling your story," and I am bored telling this story already. You know, it was just an endless cycle of me getting loads of drugs, doing loads of drugs, being miserable, and that's it really. I got expelled from 2 schools. I had opportunities and everything thrown in front of me. But the drugs always came first. They always did. And it didn't matter what it was, but I'd take it. And it just ended me up in some really, really dark places. I mean, I was taking all these pain pills, and I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop. You know, I was suicidally depressed. I was thinking every time I wake up in the morning, I think, Jesus, when will this end? You know, how can I get out of this? You know, I tried to kill myself once by taking an absolutely colossal amount of these things, and it didn't kill me, and I woke up resentful and angry at the fact of it. You know, my mum found me on my floor, you know, blue lips, sort of completely passed out, like shaking me to wake me up. It's not really the damage. It is about the damage I was doing to myself, but it's damage to everyone else that was around me too. That was the sad part about it, really. I mean, my family was broken because of it. My friends didn't want anything to do with me. You know, I had a really nice girlfriend, and she'd had enough of me after about a year and a half. And yeah, I went to rehab eventually, and I went in and I thought that I had a problem with opiates, so I came off the opiates and they put me on a methadone detox, and that was great. And came out. I was about 7 days clean because but I was still taking benzos and stuff whilst I was in there, because I had a whole concoction of drugs that I take because one of them wouldn't be enough, and I'd need all of them to be able to feel okay. And yeah, I used on the same night I came out because I thought, yeah, it's okay, I'll be all right doing coke and Ritalin and amphetamine and LSD and crack and this and that and this. I tried that for a while, and it sent me completely around the bend much faster than those other drugs had done, which is surprising considering the amount of time it actually took. And I started getting involved with illegal highs, and I ended up psychotic, very psychotic, in my mum's house, you know, thinking that she was trying to break into my room, and she was coming to kill me. So I have a samurai sword in my room, as you do. And my thought was, I have to grab that sword and make sure that I kill her before she comes into this room. You know, that's where my using took me. And luckily for some, I think it was God, you know. Luckily, he didn't let me pick up that sword. He didn't let me do anything to my parents, to my mum and my sisters, because that would have been an absolute tragedy. And again, I was sent off to rehab, you know. I got put in a psychiatric unit in a rehab. And whilst I was in there, I'd managed to smuggle in a bunch of these legal highs with me, so I was doing them whilst I was in the rehab as well. Completely psychotic for 30 days in rehab. But that's it really, isn't it? I couldn't stop taking it. I didn't know what to do, and I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. It was literally as if there was a demon inside of me. That's how I see my addiction. I got sent to rehab for 12 months in America, and I absolutely hated it. And I got put on a load of antidepressants. I did come off all the drugs, but I was clean from the drugs, but I wasn't my life was an absolute shambles, you know. It was just as bad, if not worse, as it was when I was using, in terms of I wasn't washing myself, I wasn't taking care of myself, you know. I didn't really do much aside from sit on the sofa and eat loads of shit food. And I got really fat, and I started self-harming, and I've got some pretty nasty scars on my arms. And yeah, I thought, okay, I'll come back to England, eventually I thought I'll come back to England, I'll give it another week, I'll give it one more week of good using. And I remember the last time I really properly tried to get off my nut, I took this legal high, and again, it just completely floored me. And I thought, this is enough, like, I cannot do this anymore, you know. I was absolutely, by that point, broken, beaten up by this addiction, and I'd had enough. And I luckily, my mum said to me, before this week trial that I was going to have, I'll send you to Bournemouth. And Yeah, it was the first time I'd got on my knees and I said, please help me, someone, just anyone, anything, help me, please. Because my mum had said, you're just going to go to Bournemouth, you're just going to do it again, so there's no point in sending you. But, you know, I'd had enough, I'd really had enough. And I didn't come easy. It's not like I got to Bournemouth and then I did the 12 steps and I did all the recovery and then I was great. No, that didn't happen like that. I was still really resistant. I was still cynical of this. You know, I'd seen a lot of the rooms, I'd seen a lot of CA, I'd seen a lot of NA, a lot of AA. And I just didn't believe that the things that this fellowship could give me, as it has done, were possible. And eventually I started working with a sponsor. Yeah, I didn't listen to him at first. I didn't do what he said. He was a home group member here and he told me to come here, I didn't. He told me to pray, I didn't. He told me to read the book, I didn't. He told me to, you know, just do some basic suggestions and I didn't do any of them. And I sort of lied to him and said, yeah, I'm doing them all, it's all right. Yeah, we got to step 4 and I'd find a new excuse every week as to why I had not done my step 4. But I don't know, something finally hit me hard enough to say, get on your knees, go and pray. And I started praying, and my sponsor told me that I was starting to work steps 1, 2, and 3 through doing my suggestions. And, you know, I got on my knees and something flicked. I don't know what it was. I just thought, okay, maybe something will happen from this. It didn't happen overnight. It took a good week or 2. And I started to feel better, much better actually. Like some people might say, it was almost like a spiritual experience on my birthday. I woke up that morning and for the first time in years, I mean years, I didn't wake up filled with dread, fear and depression. I woke up and I thought, oh, everything's going to be okay, and it shocked me. Everything's going to be okay. Everything happened for a reason that happened before this, and there's a reason that you're here now. And yeah, it was a really powerful moment for me. It still is. Ever since that, I finally did my step 4, and I hated every second of it. But it was one of the most freeing things that I've done. You know, I spoke to my sponsor about quite a few things that I'd never really talked to anyone about. I shared a lot of my past with him, and I just noticed things were changing internally for me because, you know, on the outside when I was using. Yeah, it's funny, I wore this suit 5 years ago. I looked like this 5 years ago, but inside I was absolutely beaten up, destroyed, broken. It's the first time I've worn it in 5 years, actually. It's quite nice. Because I was really overweight, so I had to lose all the weight. Yeah, I was absolutely broken, absolutely broken. But, you know, something about recovery, I can't tell you exactly what it is. It was really just doing what someone told me to do, taking guidance, taking suggestions, listening to what they had to say. My life started to get a lot better, a lot more quickly than I ever could have imagined. You know, I built back a relationship with my family, and it was absolutely broken, my family and me. I've made the best friends that I've ever had. Through this, you know, I've had lots of friends, so to speak, lots of using buddies, all of that sort of stuff. People that didn't say they had your back, but they don't really. But you know, I've made some friends through this who do have my back and are there for me. And I'm no longer ashamed to be myself. I like the person that I am today. You know, I love myself, and I can wake up in the morning, I can go about doing the things that I once dreamed and hoped of doing. You know, I've just finished a course at college, you know, and I've essentially got the equivalent of the best marks that you can get in it. And the teachers always used to say to me at school, they'd always say things along the lines of, you know, you have so much potential, there's so much in you, you know, that you need to do something with it. You know, I just wouldn't listen to them. I think it's a load of rubbish, and you know, it's completely true, you know. I think that every person in here has a massive potential that they probably just haven't tapped into because of their addiction for so long. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people get better. I've seen people do well. And this program works. It absolutely works. I tried psychiatrists. I tried doctors. I tried therapists. I tried counselors. I tried medication. I tried smart recovery. I tried all of that nonsense, and none of it worked. This was it, you know. this was absolutely it, you know. I'm eternally grateful to this home group, you know. It showed me how to live, showed me how to practice my life. And yeah, no, to anyone new, get a sponsor, get a big book, work the steps, and you will live a life beyond your absolute wildest dreams. I'll leave it there.
Now Sarah's going to share for us.
My name's Sarah and I'm an addict. God, I feel nervous now, just sitting here with loads of blokes. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I'm in a wheel tappers and shunters club, you know, full of men. Anyway, I thank God from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight, because I truly have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. The obsession to use has been removed, and that has been my experience for over 10 years now. Can you believe it? A hopeless crackhead like myself has not felt the need to take any crack, heroin, cocaine, pills, Valium, temazepam, alcohol, nothing, for over 10 years, which is an absolute miracle. I could not stop using crack on a daily basis, and I was absolutely done. And every day I'd say to myself towards the end, today I am not going to use. Today I'm definitely not going to use. Then my mind would just say, just have one. Just have one. And I bought into that big fat lie for 25 years. 25 years I was drinking and using, taking something on a daily basis, and I just had enough at the end, and I did not have that needed willpower. And you know, I so desperately wanted to stop. And I just couldn't stop. And it wasn't until I came into these rooms, you know, on the 29th of January 2007, and I was a hopeless wreck of a woman. I was a woman in her early 40s, and I was absolutely dying. I was mentally, spiritually and physically broken. I'd just had enough and I couldn't stop. And I was full of fear. And I just couldn't stop. And I asked a woman to sponsor me, and she took me through the big book, the 12 steps, and I recovered, you know, and it tells you in how it works, sharing a general way what it was like and what I did and what it's like for me today. Today I have absolute peace in my life if I seek a power greater than myself. You know, I feel calm and content, and that's all I ever wanted to be, was calm and content. You know, and before that I absolutely wasn't, because I essentially drank because I loved the effect produced by alcohol. I had my first drink when I was 16. I was living in London, and I hated all the cockneys around me. You know, I was sent to London because I found out last week from my auntie, who I've seen, who's 88 years of age, and she lives in Hornchurch. I was sent to live with her because me and my sister wore my mum down. That is what she said to you. You wore your mum down, Sarah. And I didn't know that. I thought it was because my brother died and she had a breakdown and she couldn't cope. And so we were sent out to London. And, you know, I was around all these cockneys who I hated, you know, Chris Tarrant, who I hated, you know, Capital Rager, who I hated. But if you asked me how I was, I'd say I was all right, because I was constitutionally incapable of being honest with anyone. I found it difficult with absolutely everyone. I was crippled with fear inside. So much so I didn't even open up my exam papers. But if you ask me what I got, I say I got 5 O-levels. To this day, I will tell you I've got 5 O-levels, but I didn't even open the envelope because I just assumed I would have failed. So that just got torn up. And I laugh about it today, but, you know, in those days I was really, really frightened. And you know, my first drink that I had was cherry bean cider, and I absolutely cannot remember what happened. So I must have blacked out in my first drink. I ended up in places on the beach with not the clothing that I started with, and with people that I didn't go down there with. And I swore to myself I'd never do that. A month later, I'd be doing exactly the same. And I used to think it's because I mixed the grape and the grain. This is my problem. So I was trying to find a solution at the age of 16, and that just wasn't the truth. You see, I was suffering from a physical allergy. Once I started, I couldn't stop. But anyway, I managed to stop, but I couldn't stay stopped. And when I was living in London with my auntie, my cousins were all going down the Old Kent Road all the time. They were living in Hornchurch, the Old Kent Road. I thought, I can't wait to get this bloody Old Kent Road. By the time I was old enough to get down the Old Kent Road, I got all dressed up and I went down the Old Kent Road, and I just went down there and I thought, is this it? I thought, what a shithole. I couldn't believe it. You see, the grass was always greener for me. I always wanted what you had, and when I got it, I wasn't happy anyway. But I seen a big sign that said, drink as much as you want for a £5. Now, I am sure my age, drink as much as you want for a £5. I thought, lovely, and that's exactly what I did. I drank as much as I could, and I just got absolutely paralytic drunk, and I just couldn't control it. I used to think it's because I had a constitution of an ox. I'm hanging around with all these cockneys that can't take their drink, and I'm a southerner that's made of something. Do you know what I mean? But now I know I'm suffering from a physical allergy that once I start, I cannot possibly stop. And things started to progress, you know, and I met my husband when I was 19 years of age. He introduced me to cocaine. Loved the effect produced by cocaine. It meant that I could control my drinking more. I could control it. We used to go football. We went to environment where drinking and using coke was just a normal way of living. You know, I thought I truly had arrived. I was living the high life, you know, going to the races, champagne, bars. I absolutely loved it. But I just, you know, looking back in hindsight, filling a bath up with water, thinking my nose is going to get blocked. If it gets blocked, I'll just stick my head in it is not normal thinking. You know, normal people just think, I'll stop if my nose gets blocked, I will stop. Me, I used to just dunk my head, you know, and that's not normal thinking. That's the age of 21. I had another 20 years of use and things just progressed. You see, I thought I had a power of choice, I see, because I knew what a junkie looked like. That was my sister, Kate. She was sticking needles in her neck. She was a rotten heroin addict. You see, I thought I was better than that. I'm so self-righteous and arrogant. I knew what an alcoholic looked like. That was my dad sitting on a park bench. So I thought I had a power of choice. You see, I thought I was choosing to use at the weekends copious amounts. I thought I was a good planner, buying 7 grams of cocaine on a Friday night, stopping on a Sunday by taking loads of Valium into Mazepam. I thought that was some sort of control because I got up for work on a Monday morning. I didn't end up in prisons and institutions, you see, because I thought I was a recreational user. You know, but things just progressed, you know, and I just couldn't stop. And eventually, I looked at my husband, I thought, it's quite obviously his fault. This is where my problems began, him. You see, because now I've progressed, I've started to look externally. I needed something to fix me. I needed to move from a flat to a house. I needed external stuff. I needed a better car. I needed a better lover. Do you know what I mean? And so I was just not satisfied. And I know now that I'm trying to fill a spiritual hole that I just can't do that. And the only thing that will do that is God. And I'm just seeking external stuff, and eventually it just won't work. You know, the drugs stopped using. The ones I was using just weren't working, so I was progressing on to crack. I couldn't get hold of any coke, so I went on to crack, and then I went on to heroin because I needed to control it. Not because I wanted to become a dirty, rotten junkie like the rest of them. I just needed to control it. That's why I'm using it. I need to control it. But before I know it, you know, I've got myself a habit with everything, and I'm doing stuff now that I said I'd never ever go. All my morals, everything that I lived for, you know, all that money, material stuff was now starting to go around me. You know, we had to sell the flat, the house, you know, cash in all the pensions that we had. I built up a life around me, and in the end, it started to go away. It started to go away because, you know, I was being ravished by crack cocaine on a daily basis. It was just absolutely ravishing me of everything, and I just could not stop. And so in the end, you know, I'm living in this idyllic little cottage out in Wheathampstead, the one I thought was going to fix me. You know, it was turn of the century cottage. It was called Christmas Cottage. It just doesn't get better than that. And a little place called Wheathampstead, I thought, lovely. Thank you, God. I can't believe it. I used to wait up at St Albans, you know, for my husband to come back from Brixton with the white. I'm in St Albans Abbey, please, God, let him be quick. You see, I was already seeking God and I didn't even know it, but I'm waiting for the pipe. You know, just don't let him take it all. Don't let him take it, boys. If he sent me, that's what I would do. I would take it all. And so, you know, in the end, I just couldn't stop. And so I started to look at Mark, and I just thought, you know, he's got to go. So I rang up the police. I rang up 999, and I said, listen, mate, he's got to go. He's drinking like I was and driving like I was. But we weren't looking at me. We were looking at him. And I said, he's going to kill somebody just like I was. And they came and got me, suffering from psychosis, the same as me. But I could get it together. And they took him away at the St Albans Asylum for 28 days. And I thought, lovely. They knotted him off, and I thought, lovely, I've got the house to myself now. I will sort myself out. But before I do, I just get one of each. That's what I'll do. I'll just get one of each. And so it just started. So for 28 days, I went on a massive binge, and I realised, you know, Mark wasn't the problem. Quite clearly I was, but I just thought, you know, we need to separate. That's what we need to do. So we separated. We sold the house. He went to Barbados to get clean. I went to Ealing to get clean. And neither of us managed to do that. And that was in 2007. I had another 7 years to go. But in the end, you know, I was just absolutely hopeless. I had nothing, absolutely nothing. And one day, you know, I'm taking, you know, I came into a little bit of money, and I went on an almighty bender, and I just broke. I had a car crash, and I just broke, and I just surrendered. I rang up this outreach nurse for help, and I just said, you've got to help me. You see, because when I had this car crash, I had 60 quid's worth of white in my mouth and 3 bottles of wine, and the only thing I could think of was the white in my mouth, and I suddenly thought, maybe I might have a problem here. And I rang up this outreach nurse and I said, you've got to help me. And she got me into detox. The night before I went into detox, I wrote a letter to God, who I hated, saying, dear God, please help me. All I wanted was 2 weeks. 2 weeks off of everything. I just needed to sleep and eat. Sleep and eat, that's all I needed to do. And after 9 days, the doctor said to me, Sarah, you're free from everything. And I said, well, listen, mate, you see, because that big ball of fear had come back, you're going to have to give me something. You're going to have to give me a Valium, temazepam, or Mogadon. And he said, it's all in your head. And I said, for God's sake, how dare you talk to me like that? And he said, that's all you've got is God. And I just thought, where's he going to get off? But I went into my little room in the detox and I prayed to God, please, God, help me. Because I knew I was going to use, I'd managed to get to a dry house in Bournemouth, and I knew I was never going to make it on the train. And my friend Jimmy, who's a black cab driver, just said, Sarah, get in the car. And he took me in the car, and I got in the car, and he brought me down to Bournemouth. I seen a little poster that said Cocaine Anonymous. I thought, lovely. I'm going to go and buy some cocaine. Lovely. Tracy will have got there from the detox. She'll be there. She'll have sorted it all out. I'm going to buy some coke. I've got a couple of weeks' worth of gyro in there. I'm going to buy some coke. And I got there. There was about 100 people in this meeting. It was a big book meeting, talking an audio one, American accent. And I thought, oh, my God. Look at the state of these people. Look at the state of them. I just thought, and here's me, 6.5 stone, ringing red, colour of yellow, and I'm absolutely judging the living daylight out of everyone else. And I thought, one day I'm going to come back and help these people, you know. And I couldn't even introduce myself as an addict. I couldn't. I didn't even know what an addict was. But after 19 days, you know, I got a sponsor, and I was able to introduce myself, and I'm full of fear. And we went through the work outlined in the big book. And something happened to me when I went through that work. You see, once I realised that doctor's opinion, that I suffered from a physical allergy and a mental obsession, that, you know, it just propelled me to go through the rest of the work. You know, and when I'm separated from drugs, I'm full of fear, my emotions are all over the place. Everyone just thought I had permanent PMTs. That's what they thought I was like. She's a nutter. And I used to say, yeah, and if anyone hears about it, I'll kill you. You know, nobody could know that I was a nutter. I was just emotionally unstable, and that's what that psychopathic nature is, an emotional, stable person, and that was me down to a T, with or without the drugs. You know, and I went through this work, and I found out what I suffered from, that self-centeredness. You know, and I just diligently did what I had to do. I just surrendered to this program, and I just did it because I could see 25 years of using and drinking my way didn't work. So I knew I had to try another way, and I just followed clear-cut direction, and I went through it, and I did absolutely everything that was required of me, and my life changed out of all recognition. By the time I got stepped in, the obsession to use was removed. I don't know how. I didn't come into this room you know, believing in a God. I thought I was totally agnostic, but I was so willing to believe it was going to work for me. I was so willing. I believe I had an experience of the educational variety just by going through these steps. Something changed. And today, I'm a happy and content person. That's all I ever wanted to be. You know, I don't chase the pound note anymore. I used to think it was money. Money's going to sort me out. I came down to London thinking, I've got to find an Arab. That was what I needed to do. I needed to find an Arab with loads of money. I don't care how old they are. I'm going to marry him, you know, because I needed money. I needed money. Today, I have absolutely just what I need. You know, not what I want, what I need. I love my life today. It's a real simple life today. The book tells you any vicissitudes you will cope with, and that has been my experience. I've had quite a few deaths in recovery. My ex-husband died from this disease, my brother died, you know, but I never once thought of using. I keep on trudging and moving forward, and I know things will get better for me, because that has been my experience. I've grown in recovery, I've become a woman, I'm not a child anymore. I was a scrawny little, you know, I was sad. I was a sad, pathetic human being when I came into these rooms. I can say that. I wasn't the person God intended me to be, and today I am most definitely the woman that God intended me to be. I love my life today. It's simple, it's nothing glamorous, you know, but it's how I wanted it to be, full of contentment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, Jimmy's going to share for us.
Mate, I'm Jimmy, I'm an addict. Just let you know she married a Scouser. Happy birthday, how it works. What, 14 years today, is it? 14, well done, man. 13. I love it because it's like the date is endless, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? As long as we want recovery to be. It's my experience anyway. And I used every substance really. I don't think it's about the substance actually. I think it's about how I react to it once I put it in my body. That's the first part. That's just 1 + 1 = 2. Dead easy to add up, you know what I mean? Once I start, I can't stop. That's the physical, hands up, that's me. Do you mean once I stop, I can't stay stopped? That's the mental obsession, believing in a lie time and time again, when clean. And the underlying spiritual malady, the book talks about maladjustment to life. Do you know what I mean? Can't control my emotional natures, full of resentment, clean, fear. My sponsor describes it as chronic self-centeredness, and it's like no periscope, but that way on me. There's just no room for anything or anyone. Do you know what I mean? And no wonder I'm blocked off and I'm on the pipe, and it's all your fault again. Do you know what I mean? And it's hard. It was hard for me, mate. When the substances come off, oh, mate, it was hard. I didn't know whether I was coming or I was going, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just did not know what was wrong with me. And when I come in over 15.5 years ago, I'm not the man who sits here today. I'm a good person, man. I've got a good heart. I'm a kind and loving fella, do you know what I mean? I couldn't say that. I'd cringe, oh, I can't say that, you know what I mean? I was brought up on council estate, smoking crack and injecting heroin on stairwells. I mean, I was lost, mate. And thank God I found that drug, alcohol, when I was 14. Oh, mate, I feel better. Do you know what I mean? My family, jet black hair, beautiful 5 sisters and brothers, mum and dad. Me, little ginger nut popped up. And here's what happened to me, right? Took a drink of alcohol, bottle of Southern Comfort. I remember it like it was just a hot July day in the summer in St John's Gardens. Right? Alcohol went into my body, mate. I was like, oh, mate. I had jet black hair, you know what I mean? I just felt at one, you know what I mean? And I loved it. I'd done glue and solvents before it. It put me present, you know what I mean? I felt enough, you see, and as it progressed, at age 15, mate, I remember I went to school a bit of white, and I was with this lad, Jojo, got off this lady, Kate, chopped it up, snorted it, nothing happened, my nose went numb. I thought, what was all that about, you know what I mean? When I scored a bit of white off someone else, he said, no, don't do it like that, Jimmy. And he's put it in a spoon and he's thrown it up, and he said, put your arm out, and put my arm out, and he injected me, and that was it for me, mate. You know what I mean? Once that white went into my bloodstream and back of my throat, my ears popped, you know what I mean, went off like a kettle, you know what I mean, it's like bang, you know, and I'm not glamorising it, that was the feeling, mate, you know what I mean, I chased it, and then I learned to do it with a bit of brown powder and a bit of alcohol and some volume, and the lad spoke about in the beginning there, that I love pills as well. I love codeine phosphate, mate, and diamorphines, you know what I mean? And MSTs, you know, morphine sulfate tablets. Oh, mate, I just love them pills what put me on my back, you know what I mean? I'm in oblivion. And the party had to stop, mate, because when I got here, my liver was hanging out. I was yellow. I had a lot of physical problems. I'd had septicemia, pneumonia, and pleurisy. I'd done all the hostels. Do you know what I mean? I'd done the institutions and the psychiatric wards. I'd done sleeping on benches, you know what I mean? It was a touch. If I had a little touch and took someone's purse or something, you know what I mean? There's a couple of £100 in there. I get a bit of white, bit of brown. I get my, you know, classy drinks like Frosty Jack. Ace, you know what I mean? Case, I didn't drink Case either, actually. Kestrel Super Strength Lager. And I get a hotel for the night, you know what I mean? £20 hotel. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm safe, you know what I mean? Tomorrow's another day, I'll get clean. And do you know what? I did get clean, because a miracle happened for me. I was in a probation officer in Liverpool about just over 15 years, 8 months ago. I seen a fella behind the counter with a pristine suit on, shirt done up, mate, smart, creased, his shirt was creased, you know what I mean, chin was up. I thought, that's my ex-heroin dealer, what's he doing behind the counter? How strange, bang, bang, bang on the counter. Frankie, it's Jimmy, and he just opened the hatch. He said, excuse me, Jimmy, you need to see me, you need to make an appointment. I thought, I used to buy heroin off him. Anyway, he got me in, him and a few others, they got me in detox, and thank God I was on one of them DTTO, drug treatment test. No, I think they're called DRRs now or something. Yeah, anyway, I got on one of them. Do you know what I mean? He should have just sent me to Outworks or something, shouldn't he, with a big book, you know what I mean? After detox. Anyway, they sent me to detox, and hospital institutions come in. I went to my first meeting. I left that meeting, I got on my knees. I prayed to God. I believe I surrendered that night. You know, and I ain't used since I come in recovery. You know, 15 years, 7 months nearly. November the 20th, 2001. It's my clean date, and by the grace of God and good home group and sponsorship, you know, I've kept that clean date, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to go back out there and do research. This addict has done enough research, thank you very much. My hands were up. I surrendered. I've done what it was asked to do, mate, without question. I've done it. I debated it in my head, but I've done it. My actions were different. Do you know what I mean? I met a man in Weymouth, mate, on a Friday night in a big book meeting, and he offered me some help. He said, go and buy a big book, first bit of direction. He said, a 4th edition big book, and come round my house and be on time. Because I was listening, you see. Because the arrogance I had and the defiance, that needed to be smashed out of me, mate. Because I had no options left when I come in, really no options. Burnt, mate, absolutely burnt. And I got round that man's house, and there's how the arrogance and defiance come back. I got round here 20 to 7. Instead of 7 o'clock, his door was open, I let myself in. It's not even my house, how dare I? Knocked, went up the stairs. Do you know what I mean? He said, what do you want, Jimmy? I said, you told me to come round. He said, 7 o'clock, come back at 7 o'clock. Yes. Really calm, he was eating his tea, been in his painting gear all day, you know what I mean? I come back and I went up and he gave it to me in piecemeal, mate, you know what I mean? We've done Joe and Charlie, 12 steps, real simple for me. Like, this is the allergy, this is the obsession, is this you, are you powerless, yes or no, no debating, do you know what I mean, bang. I'd already took step 1 before I come in that door. I had lived step 1, mate, do you know what I mean, it wasn't up for debate. You know, step 2 is just a willingness to believe, that's easy to do, mate. Are you willing to believe this programme will work for you, bang, that's step 2. Do you know what, I didn't even need a sponsor to do the first 3 steps, believe it or not. Do you know what I mean? Done a prayer with a group of us, 3rd step prayer. Written infantry that night. I started writing infantry that right after my prayer, mate. And you know what? When I got clean in Weymouth, people at the time said, no, you're doing this too fast, Jimmy. You need to slow down, mate. Mate, I've got a real live illness, mate. I need to get connected to some power, which is God, mate, what will dispel the obsession to use, mate. That's what I need to do so I can live comfortable in my own skin. I didn't know it at the time. I smashed my inventory out, right, my resentments. Resentful like Maggie Thatcher, bang. Mum, dad, brother, sister, the granny on the street, blah, 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 and the list just went on, you know. It was exhausting, mate. And eventually it pointed back at me, you see. Do you know what I mean? The way I'd been living, writ some fears down. Do you know what? It wasn't even an academic exercise. I was just told what to do and I'd done it. Writ a sex inventory down. It wasn't about swinging from chandeliers, mate, believe me. It was about how I treated people in relationships. Because I was full of guilt and shame and resentment. And I wrote a secrets list down because it talks in the big book until Jimmy told someone all his life story, until I've lost my egoism and fear. I hadn't humbled myself properly, and I'd done it, mate. And I tell you what, when I done that step 5 with that man, because I had stuff in meetings, my toes would curl, sat in the meeting clean, because I'd be holding on to stuff. Thank you. And I shared that, and my head come up, my chin come up, I begin to have a spiritual experience, because I sit here, and it's not arrogance, I sit here a free man, right, because I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, no more, no less, and that is it really. Do you know what I mean? And I took these suggestions on. I've done 6 and 7, dead quick, bang, bang. Do you want to live that way or do you want to live God's way? I had my step 8 list from my step 4. It's dead easy, mate. Man, these could do this programme. The hard part's living it out there. Went out and done my amends. Again, I had little whispers of people, oh, you don't need to go and make amends to shops, Jimmy, you're insured. You know, these people just like sitting on, I hadn't even done step 1, trying to give me advice, you know what I mean? The sponsor said, Jimmy, just take the guidance from me. Don't take guidance from anyone else until you've done this programme. Keep it clear and keep it precise. And I went out and done my amends. The first amend I done was in a mother care shop. The lady stopped me, the manager said, I know why you're here. I scratched my head. I said, why is that? She said, you're here to make a 9-step amends. I'm a member of a 12-step fellowship. And I said, thank you, God. Thank you, God. God showed up, you know what I mean? My sponsor took me to 10 and 11 in the book because it's together, you see. Because if I'm doing infantry, I'm doing prayer. I can't work one without the other. And Sarah spoke about these step 10 promises in this book. You know, it talks about being restored to sanity, being in a place of neutrality. I can honestly say I've been in a place of neutrality for over 15.5 years. I have not come close to using. Get on that, mate. I used to stick a needle in my groin every day. I was on a methadone script for 17 years. Yeah. And I got a relationship with God. And in the 12th step, he's asked me to go out and carry this message to other people. I've tried to do that. My sponsor learnt me a very important word in step 12. We tried to carry this message to others and then practice this programme in all my affairs. You want to know I'm working this programme? It's my beautiful wife there. She'll tell you the truth, because I'll probably give you a different version, won't I? Because I'm a liar. Yeah, I'd say I'm working it really well. Truth being, the truth being at times in the home, probably not too well at times. I can still bark, I can still shout, that's the truth. But you know what, it's all right, it's all right. God forgives me, my wife forgives me. Do you know what I mean? And I get out and sponsor other people. I've got 2 home groups because one's not enough. I do service in them 2 groups. I do service at London area as well, and I try and sponsor other people. I try and live a godly life, you know, and I try and walk this path. Thank you. You know, what else can I share about? I've got a job today. Been paying taxes for a little while. That's a miracle, isn't it? Scouts are paying taxes. it might not mean a lot to some people. Yeah, it means a lot to me. I've got a driving licence with my name on it, not yours. I've got credit cards with my name, not yours. Do you know, these little shit, I live an ordinary life. I'll finish off on this. I got up today, here's what I done, right? I prayed. I prayed with my wife. I wrote a gratitude list. Right. I opened this book, I read a couple of pages, I spoke to some new people. I read a Just for Today card. And I've done some other spiritual practice I do with another book. You know what, I'm not going to mention in here, but I do it as part of my faith, you know what I mean? I give my life to the Lord when I was 10 years clean. You know, and I've done that stuff. And I took my dog down the beach with my wife for something to eat. And I was happy coming here tonight. Do you know what I mean? It's funny how this changes, isn't it? I was here a little while ago and I was like looking about and I was thinking, all the original people are here when it started, and it's lovely to see other people who stayed about and people who are trying to come back. I just encourage you, your recovery can start tonight, whether you're using or not. You can still get a sponsor and start doing the suggestions. You don't even have to be clean to hear this message. God give me 2 ears to listen, you know. I encourage you, get a sponsor and just don't get any sponsor, get a good sponsor. Do you know what I mean? Who's doing this stuff. Do you know what I mean? This works for everyone, whether you're black, white, women, child, I don't know, half woman or... It works for everyone, you know what I mean? We're all inclusive here. No, I mean that in the nicest possible respect. You know, we're inclusive here. This programme works for everyone. And with that, I've gone over by 15 seconds. Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Now Vicky's going to share for us.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, I'm Vicky, I'm an addict. And thanks for 3 great shares. And I'm going to go now because you've all said everything that I was going to say. And as I don't feel nervous like I used to when I first got here. If someone had asked me a month ago, and I think that's when I was asked to do a share, I would be obsessing for the next month till that time came. I can say that it's only lasted 45 minutes today. If there's just me sharing, it's just a couple of minutes before the meeting starts. It's a privilege to be here. This is my home group, and I have learnt so much in this meeting. And I have discovered a fantastic life in Cocaine Anonymous. You know, my life wasn't always fantastic. You know, I spent many years broken. And from as far back as I can remember, I never felt right. You know, I'd compare myself to everyone around me, and I fell short. I felt like I didn't belong here. In any situation I was in, I just didn't feel comfortable. And I can remember as a young child, my dad saying to me, "You're neurotic." Now, I didn't know what that meant, but I thought that must be what it is. I'm neurotic. And that's certainly true. But for me, when I first discovered, I come from a very boozy family. It was, you know, people like to drink in my family and they had a good time with it. They're not like me. But I can remember from a young age, couldn't wait to be big enough. Couldn't wait to be old enough to have a good drink because it looked like fun. And I would, you know, I started drinking, clearing up after the boozy parties that my family had. I came from a good background. I was taught right from wrong. But I was drinking at the age of 6, clearing up after these parties. I didn't notice an effect produced at the time. I felt grown up. That was it. And, you know, it was kind of in my early teens that I started drinking because I felt so uncomfortable being me. I was full of fear. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I was crippled with it. And when I had a drink, I was somebody different. I had confidence. I could talk to anybody. I had a laugh instead of being a miserable cow, which is what I was. And, you know, it lit me up. It changed the way I felt. And you know, and I went through the progression. I can remember my dad, "Don't ever take drugs. Don't ever take drugs." Now, I'm the kind of person that if you say don't, I will do. It's just the way I am. And I kind of, you know, I did have a significant event happen when I was 11. My mum was ill when I was 8, and then she died when I was 11. And then I had a stepmom really quickly after that. So my mum had died. I had a wicked stepmother. So therefore, as I got older and I was drinking and using more, that was the reason. And I believed that until my first time in recovery and then a relapse. I believed that to be true. It's not true. Plenty of people have things happen and they don't drink and use like I did. So I drank and used for the effect that it produced, and I loved it. You know, I loved the parties and I had a good time. In times in my using, I had a great time. And I worked behind bars. There was always an alcoholic behind the bar, but it wasn't me, it was usually my manager. And I think, Sarah, you said about this kind of attempts to control. And what happened with me was I would drink like a fish all week. This is kind of as time goes on, and I've started picking up things like heroin. So I drank all week and I took heroin at the weekend. So therefore I had a problem with neither. It didn't matter that I was taking something every single day to change how I felt. And I was very controlled during that period of time because I didn't want to be a smackhead. That wasn't going to happen to me. I was too good for that. And that's what I believed. And eventually, the weekends got longer. I've got, you know, a string of broken relationships. I haven't got a clue how to live my life. And it got to the point where my life was falling apart and the lies were, you know, my lies weren't working anymore, and I was starting to get found out. And I had this addiction to heroin, and I can remember coming to 12-step fellowships before I got clean, and I can remember hearing abstinence. That might be okay for you lot, but not for me. I've just got a problem with heroin. And I couldn't get clean in the rooms. It's not my story. Eventually I end up in a treatment centre, and I come off the drugs that I'm on, and I get introduced to the fellowship. I went from primary treatment, which I used in, and then came down here for secondary treatment. And I guess primary treatment just gets rid of the using, and then you're left with you, aren't you? I thought I was all right. I thought 6 weeks was quite enough time. And that I was cured. And that wasn't the case, you know. My behaviour very quickly took me back to thoughts of using. And that was behaviour in a treatment centre. After signing all these rules, no, I'm not going to do this, that and the other. Within a week, I'm in trouble, and the counsellor's saying, you've done this, and how do you feel? I want to use. That's how I feel. And, you know, and I left the treatment centre with a man, which isn't suggested, I have to say. And you know, and I had a sponsor, and I ended up having a drink again, and a pipe, and some heroin, and then went back to the meetings and moaned about it the next day. My sponsor at the time said, if you don't put this relationship on the back burner, you will use again. And that's what happened. And in my arrogance, I sacked the sponsor with the attitude, I'll show you who's going to use again. And, you know, she was right, I was wrong. And to cut a very long story short, it was very messy. I had a child, I was dragging her through my addiction, and it was just chaos, social services, all the stuff that goes with using drugs. And I could not stop. I had no power to stop. Eventually, I went into the local detox. Did 3 weeks in there. I came back out. I still had the partner using. I had this child that I didn't know what to do with. And I hit the meetings hard. I got a sponsor, and I did what I was asked to do. I worked through the 12 steps. And at 2 years clean, my partner came here to this meeting. And he came back and he said, oh, I've been told I can't share. I said, you're a newcomer, you can do what you like, you can share. It's all about the newcomer. They're breaking traditions. I hadn't read the traditions, so I didn't know what they were doing, really. Anyway, that man, within 2 weeks of getting clean and taking the actions that have been spoken about tonight and the daily suggestions, read the book, pray it, gratitude list, working with others, 2 weeks, he was doing better than I was at 2 years clean. These guys had something going on in this group. And it was a few months later, and I came to the meeting, and I was blown away. The message was consistent. Every single person that shared was happy. And I'd not been in a meeting where everything was consistently on a positive note. And my sponsor at the time moved up to London, and I got a sponsor through this group who showed me, because I'd worked steps 1 to 12, but I was not practicing them in my daily life. So emotionally, I was like that. And I didn't, hand on heart, I asked myself the question, was I going to stay clean doing what I was doing? The answer was, I didn't know. The chances are I wouldn't have done. So I got a sponsor who showed me how to put these steps into action on a daily basis. Now, I'm not saying I've done that perfectly from 12 years ago. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I've done my very best on a daily basis to action this programme. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of fun. You know, there was pictures being shown beforehand, there's pictures up there. We've had some fun in this group. The unity here that I've experienced has been second to none. I've had a great time. I'm able to be a parent to my children today. I'm able to work today. That is not of me. If I'm not surrendering on a daily basis to this programme, then I will end up using again. There's no two ways about it. I know what my truth is. I know what I am. I identify with the book. You know, and that was a novelty, reading the book. To why I've saved my husband's life, I have to tell you that now. It's just long enough to stop you killing someone. So I know that chapter very well, but once I started reading that, you know, there was no denying that I am of the type it talks about in the book. There's no denying that. You know, I've learned from coming here and doing what was suggested and doing what my sponsors asked, I'm able to be on time for things. I'm able to show up at work. I'm able not to tell my boss where to go, just for want of a better word. You know, I'm able to keep my mouth shut when it counts, although my husband may beg to differ on that. So, you know, what I've learned here in this group, what I've learned through being in recovery, what I've learned from finally finding one person that I am prepared to be told what I need to do by. You know, Rico can say to me, you need to do this. And I'm like, in my mind, don't recall asking you to sponsor me. So I'll go to my sponsor and go, and he said, and she'll go, he's right. But the fact that she says to do it, I can do it then. I can also just about do the same for the GSR, although I get that going on in my stomach. I've got an amazing life as a result of what I found here. But I will say, for me, I had to get to that point where I was broken, where the drugs had broken me. I couldn't go out grafting anymore. I couldn't do what it took to carry on using. I would rather have died. And that's how I came here. Like Jimmy said, I came in here with step 1. I had that. You know, I didn't need to do loads of writing on my consequences. I'd done that and it didn't make any difference. And I continue to action the steps into my life the best I can. My children, you know, I'm so proud of my children. I've had my ups and downs with the older one, and she's just flying. You know, and there was a time a few years ago where I thought she's going to end up like me. And the second one down, you know, the 2 younger ones are recovery children. The second one down drives me mad. She's 13. You know, just like the other one did at 13. So I know now that'll come out the other side. You know, I'm able to be the person, like you said, Sarah, I'm able to be the person I was supposed to be. And you know, I'm not going to sell this programme to anyone. But if you are broken and you are lost and you want a way out, we've got a full and complete solution on offer in this room tonight. No one in this room needs to use again. We've got a solution to that here. Like I said, my experience was I needed to be done, and I needed to find that one person that I was prepared to take direction from, because no one could give me no teachers, my family, the wicked stepmother, my dad, and had my mum survived, it would have been her as well. It was everything, all my using was everyone else's fault. It wasn't. You know, I found that out in step 4. You know, if you're new or if you're done, then you can see Luke after the meeting or grab one of us later on, and you know, we can show you how we recover. And I'll leave it there. Thanks for letting me share.
Cheers.